I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and co-owner of PurePleasureShop.com.
And I'm April, sex toy maven, VP of Hot Octopus, and I've dedicated my life to the business of sex. We're two people with a passion for educating and inspiring shame-free conversations about sex and relationships. Welcome to the Shameless Sex Revolution.
Want to learn more? Go to shamelesssex.com, and for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code shamelesssex at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back to the Shameless Sex Podcast. And this one, so when we started, Chip, years ago, 5 years now? Almost?
I think, yes, 2017.
Yes, like June 1st-ish, 2017. And we said it would be weekly episodes, and we'd only have a guest 1 week out of that month. And now it's almost always with guests and rarely just a whole episode with us.
Our lives were a bit different back then as well. And I haven't listened to our initial episodes from the very beginning in a long time.
They're kind of fun.
They are fun. And now we are both audio. I think we're I will speak for myself, but I am so particular about how our sound is. And I realize how much we interrupted each other too.
What do you mean?
And then our audio quality is better now.
Yeah, well,
we have
actually,
more of a system.
As you say that, and I interrupt you, when I've listened to those initial episodes, I was preparing for oh God, what? Oh no. I was actually kind of impressed with what we did I think in your kitchen, that other house that you lived at years ago during that time. And we had committed to doing 2 to 3 or 5 episodes and seeing what would happen and just never look back. So
P.S. One thing, shameless admission right here, is that one thing I've said to you, and you're like, this is not true, April. And I was like, yes, it is. Let me show you our album cover. And I never knew our album cover, meaning when you look at us on all of the iTunes, whenever you see Shameless Sex and our logo with us with no tops on and bottoms. And I was like, yo, Amy, when it comes up on my screen at home on my television, you can totally see my vulva. And you're like, no, you can't. Oh, wait, yeah, you can.
Well, most people aren't watching on TV.
I know, because I did not intend to wear those.
No, everyone's going to go look on a TV.
I know. You know what? Do it. And
we just got so many more
I'm
followers.
not going to change the album cover ever. And Amy you were like, maybe we can find someone to Photoshop it. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's not that I was trying to put it out there, but it's still sometimes when it comes up, I was like, motherfucker. I should have shaved my bush more for that photo shoot.
I love a bush, though.
And also, I love those underwear. I still have them. And
that was a great photo shoot.
You were wearing my underwear, I think, and I was wearing my own underwear. And
interesting.
I took the more see-through ones because I was like, this will never show up on any
there's a wall hanging right now. I can see it, and I'm looking at your bush as we speak.
But no bush shame here. I just didn't know my vulva would be exposed now forever.
Actually, I had a dream about my bush last night.
I said that to my friend the other day, a mutual friend of ours. I was like, I was looking at my vulva when it came up on
my
TV.
own TV.
And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you can see that. She's like, then she looked, she's like, you're right.
Just on a computer?
Yes.
Oh, well.
So it's there. So everyone, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay? You're welcome. And I'm not shameful about that. I just am continuously surprised. So there's a shameless admission for you.
Which goes hand in hand with this topic. Well, and the topic for this podcast is a little
April's vulva. No.
Well, and it's about the things that we wish we knew when we started having sex in our teens, what we learned in our 20s, our 30s. April's turning 40 soon, and we will dive into this soon. And that's a piece of it, right? Like in your teenage years, had there been a picture, well, the whole interwebs was a little different then, but that happened at that time. Oh my God, you would have lost your shit. Now you're like, well, all right, here.
Well, P.S. I've never sent out nudes, really, ever? Of myself.
To anyone?
Ever. I've sent out headless shots of the body that have not included me naked or shots of my bits. I'm not anti that. For me, I was always, remember I would tell you, what if I want to run for president someday? Don't get me in this shot.
Because that
my ass maybe, but nothing.
That would probably get you elected though.
Right. Well, maybe.
I mean, in my world, you have my vote.
220. That's a long time. I'm going to be cryogenically frozen until then.
Okay. All right. Well, she has my vote, everyone.
So this episode, we didn't really tell them, but it is about,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
about our journey.
Yeah, and the many things that we wish we knew and that we've learned along the way, and that don't just relate to us personally, because they're things that we've learned. There's educational moments, et cetera, from educators and from our own trials and tribulations.
From
and
our listeners, too, who have taught us incredibly deep and profound realizations about things that we have said or that have helped them, or things that we've had to rethink that we thought that weren't necessarily accurate. And then we're like, whoa, well, let's look into that. That's right.
It's
You're
also
right.
kind of fun to look back and be like, wow, I used to do that shit. Or that's how I thought about, that's how I treated my body, or that's the kind of sex I used to have, or that's the kind of communication I had in relationships. So no judgment for folks who are like, wow, I'm still on the journey, because we will always be on our journey. And as April made the comment about, we'll never change that logo of us. I was like, is it catfishing if we're, 60 and we're still doing this podcast? I think we got to change the logo at that point. And that goes hand in hand with the idea that we will always be changing, growing, learning, shifting. And, that's just a part of this whole piece.
There's no catfish. We did our own hair and makeup there.
No, we didn't.
I did it.
No, we went and got our makeup done.
Did we?
Yes, we
Really?
did. Yes.
Oh,
I remember.
I did my own hair. I never got my hair done. For that.
I never get my hair done.
Oh,
but the
I
makeup.
did my own hair. Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we did. We got free makeup for buying makeup at the department store. That's a trick, anyone. If you ever have a photo shoot, just go and select a counter and you just buy a few pieces of makeup and they'll do your makeup for free.
Yeah, exactly. A life hack.
That is a life hack.
And that's one of the things we learned in our 30s.
And in our teens.
Yes, in our teens. So, okay, before we go into that whole piece of all the lessons and trials and tribulations and all the beautiful pieces, we just want to comment on the reviews we've been receiving on iTunes specifically. And I think you can leave reviews on all of the sites and modalities. And
Except Spotify. I don't believe you can.
Yeah, actually, I haven't looked into that. That's a good
I don't
question.
believe that you can.
Yeah. Well, iTunes is what that's what we spend our time looking at. And the reviews have been phenomenal. So if you love our podcast, please go give us those 5 stars. And so some of the reviews lately have just been, because April, you're like, well, if you don't have time, just leave an emoji.
A squirt emoji.
Yeah.
An emoji of high five.
Yeah. Or anything. Thumbs up.
Emoji of a squirrel.
Yeah. Or
Which could mean what?
a chicken. Like
A cock?
A cock, exactly. So someone left a review, and their actual name, because you can create your own name if you've never done reviews, was a picture of books, an emoji of books, and a splash or squirt. That was their name. So something like learning squirt. Maybe learning squirt is their name.
That's
in code.
amazing.
And then their review was a wave. What does it mean?
I don't know. I really think that
I like it.
the more folks that can encode their reviews or have us decode their emoji
fun.
reviews could be really fun.
Yeah.
There was a game show back in the 90s that was like that. You had to decode these pictures, and I was fucking shitty at it. So if you want to do that, I need to use my brain more. So speak to us in riddled emojis, please.
But only with 5 stars, though.
Yes. Also, 5 stars are important. And if you don't know how to review, it is a little bit tricky. iTunes specifically, you do have to search. Even if you're subscribing or downloading, you have to search for us. Then you go down, you scroll down, and then you hit review, and then you can just type a little squirt emoji or a sushi emoji or an emoji of a chip. They don't have that really.
What about dip? Guacamole?
They have some dips
All right.
and some soup.
Someone else also left their phone number and said, "Sext me, ladies." That was wonderful. I won't be sexing you, neither will April, but I appreciate it. Thank you. And that had 5 stars, so that is welcome. Thank you very much.
Is sexting, if you sext someone, is it only words or is it photos as well and emojis?
I think it all kind of goes in the same category.
Okay.
I mean, sex is the words that you would say, and I think pictures, like sexy pictures. Yeah, sexy. Yeah, because so texting wouldn't be sexy, and a photo that's not sexy wouldn't be sexy or sexting.
I never took the course
On
in
sexting.
sexting, and so I need a little bit of a refresher and or the 101.
All right. So if you're like, 18 to 25, but not below 18, not over 25, can you please tell us what sexting is all about these days?
Or just send us a review with 5 stars that looks like a sext.
Perfect. Then we'll learn. Okay, which brings us to all the things we've learned along our way since we became sexual beings. And what I would like to highlight first is, well, we've been sexual beings from the start. Since we came into this world, we were created from sex. And we are not going to talk about those times we've talked about in so many podcasts. Actually, if you want to talk about when you were masturbating with your bear, that's totally cool. We were going to kind of start with when we first started really exploring sexuality with others, as well as maybe expanding within ourselves, and those happening in our teenage years, and then just shifts in our 20s, 30s, and soon to be 40s, because April's turning 40 this year. Woo-hoo. She's like, yes.
I'm actually excited about turning 40. And I will say, even if you believe you weren't born a sexual human, some folks are feeling that maybe there's pressure. We've had other guests. I believe there was August
McLaughlin.
Really, way to go. Your brain.
She's the Girl Boner podcast. How could you forget?
She was talking about how her sexual self that was really feeling into having sex and orgasm didn't happen until I believe it was in her 20s.
Yeah.
And that is not uncommon. And for me, I was very young. And for you, it happened later as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not way later, but yeah, it was not young.
And it's not like you were a late bloomer or something. But for me,
And we're talking about masturbation, by the way.
Well,
yeah, like
right.
self-pleasure at young
and
age.
masturbation, I really didn't understand that what I was doing when I was 5 or 6 year old, and I'll try to remember the exact age, but I would hump a pillow, and I did that for a long period of time. And then I remember accessing VHS tapes of different movies that I was not allowed to watch when my mom wasn't home, and I'd pop them in and then look for the spots. And
the teddy bear, though.
And the teddy bear was my go-to. I tried pillows, it didn't have the same effect. And my teddy bear, Barry, was my go-to tool for masturbation. And I'm bringing this up because my sex did shift in my teens when I cared about what
when you finally
the
lost
boys
the bear.
thought. And the bear was no longer allowed in my stuffed animal collection because I wanted to be cool and get rid of all my stuffed animals. And so I did not realize in my teens that my masturbation would trickle in or leak into my sexual experiences with boys, because I was experiencing most things with boys. I did experience some things with girls, and we didn't know it was sexual at the time. It was like, let's try to make out, or what does your dry humping feel like with my dry humping?
It's so interesting when you talk about this, because later when we talk about like our 30s, and I'll talk more about like sex parties and all this stuff, that your 18 and younger roles or experiences in the sexuality field are like so dynamic and diverse with masturbation and different bodies and sexes and genders and all these things. And now you've shifted a little more like kind of honed in with various things.
Totally.
But, I mean, you're definitely baiting a bunch, and you're also someone who isn't, you don't identify as super straight, like and I do. And now I'm in more of like this, like, well, sex parties and be naked, let's do these things, and I love hearing that though. I just love hearing that. I remember you telling the story being younger and like trying out some like kind of scissory, humpy things with other girls.
Well, I would try that with other girls, only with our clothes on, and it was at a very young age, and it was always both of us sort of mimicking what we would watch in our videos of the things we weren't supposed to be watching when our parents weren't home. And I remember the time when the internet, when my friend had a computer, and I Google wasn't even there.
No, it wasn't.
I looked up like www.april.com, and it was a porn site back then. And I was like, oh my God. And I don't know, I think I may have been 10, but that's when I realized the beauty of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I'd go over to her house, I'd be like, what is going on in April.com?
Oh, because you didn't have the internet at your house.
No, I was not that advanced.
Did you ever do the AOL chat rooms?
No, but people would try to suck me into chat rooms in this April.com thing back then.
Oh, my God.
And I didn't understand. They said, hey, do you want to meet me in this room? And I did not understand.
Did you go?
And I never did. I never did any of the chatting.
Oh, I was so into it. And I would pretend like I was a man sometimes in there, but I was like 13 or 12 or something. And I would be there like, what are you wearing? To take your top off.
Really?
Which is funny because I'm
But
super
people
straight.
didn't send did they send images?
No,
ever?
they didn't. That was not available.
Not available.
Then
Okay.
it was AOL chat rooms, and all the 18-year-olds are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It was not available. This is all like on your, your big PC computer, and you're there typing
Hoping
away.
Your parents won't walk in.
And they can't see. And the minute it gets weird, you just leave, and they have no idea. And like it's just like you disappear. But
That's kinda fun.
and it's funny as someone who's like so just into the cock as I am that I really, I wasn't turned on by playing that role. It was like this exploration, almost as if like what is it like to be hit on by a man, but I'm pretending like a man and seeing what the woman's experience is like, but not a woman because she's 13 and I'm 13. Hopefully she's 13 and actually I'm 13, so it's not creepy because that's legal. So, but then I was thinking about all the ways that can happen. I mean, and then I realized actually at that young age, wow, anyone I'm talking to could be full of shit. I could be talking to
Because
a man,
you
a woman,
were,
yeah,
and
I taught myself that just by
Wow.
doing it, by being the creeper.
this is why I think I intentionally never did, or it was probably an unintentional / lack of actually having access to the internet in my own home, but why I never went that route.
Yeah,
I had a landline.
me too. But well, we had the internet in the house, so
You're younger than I am, though.
this is true. And which brings us to the teenage years. Chip, tell me about when you first started having sex. I am doing air quotes in this moment, and you don't have to paint the entire, whatever you want, but age and what you're understanding, the experience, what you knew then, what was sex supposed to be like, and what was your experience of it?
We've talked before when we had our moms on the show back a few years ago about our upbringings with sex. And one thing that I always recall about my upbringing growing up in Wisconsin, sex, we never talked about sex in my house. And sex was something that I knew it was in my brain. I knew it was something I wasn't supposed to do, and it was bad or taboo. And I was enamored with wanting to figure out how that would work with a penis in my vagina. And I knew also that I didn't want to be a pregnant teen mom or something. I was really adamant about having to go in life without, I never wanted to have a child when I was a teenager. I just knew it. I was like, that would be bad for me because what will I do? So I waited to have sex for a long time because of being fearful. So when I started having any sort of experience with boys after I had the dry humping with girls when I was younger, which wasn't in my brain sexual. I never knew that that was sexual until I...
Did you ever orgasm?
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yes,
the brain's like, didn't put
totally.
that together till later.
And
Yeah.
it was fully clothed all the time. And I remember I always felt that it was a bad thing, though, that it was bad. And I'd have guilt afterward after doing that. And I remember talking to my friends about it, the girls that we would... there were only a few that that it happened with, and asking them, was that bad? And they would say, no, I think that it's okay. And another one would say, no, but you can't come over anymore.
Oh, really?
There was one that said that. And so I said, okay, no problem.
No, you didn't. But you also were inside. We're like,
I know, shared. And so moving into the teens, I didn't have an understanding of what sex was like other than masturbating often and being turned on when certain things would come on, movies or shows that we'd watch that I was allowed to watch. TV was so much more limited. And I remember being okay with having boys touch my breasts. And then I didn't even kiss my first boyfriend that I had until I was 14. And that was a huge deal for me. And I remember it. And then I remember the touching of the boobs. And then I remember letting a lot of boys finger me. And actually, I was 14 and I lied to this dude, told him I was 18. He was 22.
You're only 14?
I was 14. And
he knew that you were not 18. Come on.
Well, it was completely set up by my friend that was 18 who wanted to hook up with his friend. And she's like, well, he has a friend. He was 22.
Wow.
And
That's a big
I was
gap.
14. And I told him that I was 18. And then he asked me when we were like hanging out, are you really 18? And I said, no, I'm 16, but...
Oh, you did?
I'm
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
only 14.
But still, so he knew you were underage though.
He
Like,
knew I was
yeah,
underage,
yeah.
and I let him finger me. I let him, I'm saying, because I did not know what to do, and I did not touch cocks. I did not know what to do with a penis. I had no clue, and I had no education about it. I only knew that a penis going anywhere near my body may get me pregnant. So I was like, oh my God.
Keep it over there.
Yes. I didn't even, I was afraid of ejaculate anywhere near me. And then towards the mid-range of my teens, when I was about 16, I was authorizing boys to go down on me.
Authorized. Sign here, please.
Yes, I did. I was more comfortable with it, but I always, again, would never let cocks near my body because my fear of getting pregnant. Because I don't know why. I think it was because my mom got pregnant when she was a teenager, and she instilled the fear of how it would destroy my life. And I'm not saying to anyone out there that it will. That's what I was fearful of. And my mom said, if that happens to you, you could end up on the street and have it. She was like, I'm not going to help you. And so I was like, okay, no problem. I'm not letting a cock anywhere near my body, but I would let boys go down on me.
Yeah.
I also never could orgasm from that. It was almost like a,
When they go down on you?
yes.
What about
never.
the finger banging?
Never.
No.
The finger banging was
So basically,
actually
all
more uncomfortable.
your orgasms were when you were scissoring with the girls when you were younger, basically. pretty much.
Totally.
Uh-huh.
And I was unable, and this is going to also, we're going to talk to you because I've been talking for a long time.
No,
now.
I like this. It's fun.
I was unable to actually, because of my masturbation practice, not knowing it was even a practice, because of how often I had masturbated from a young age through my teenage years into my 20s, when I started at Pure Pleasure and you gave me my first vibrator, that was like, wow, my hand doesn't have to hurt so bad. Holy shit, this is great.
You're welcome.
And right. And I related, though, orgasm to only being obtainable through touching myself or being with myself. And every time I would have sex, when I finally did have sex, I was only into having the dude orgasm and be pleasured. It never was about me. And I was like, is it? And I would ask myself during, is it over yet? Is he going to come yet? What else can I do? And I don't even know exactly why that I was conditioned in that way, but I always would masturbate the next day after I'd have sex with my boyfriend in high school.
Like, get it
and then
over
in
with
college.
and then take care of yourself.
Totally. And that lasted a long time. And whatever the wires connecting in my brain, the neural pathways that were signaling the sex is just for him, which was a thing. However that was made, really did take a long time to release and to reprogram, but it did happen eventually. My teens, not so great. I had a lot of oral though.
Yeah, but still not
The
but still-
receiving.
The receiving though, were you still doing it to kind of please them though, or were you like, was it
Totally.
Okay, you're like,
because
they
I
like
wouldn't
it.
fuck them,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't have sex with them because I was so afraid of pregnancy. Really,
So it wasn't like go down on my pussy. It was more like, just here, you can do this because I don't want to get pregnant and I want to appease you and keep the affection or attention or whatever.
right?
Yeah.
Which now seems that was ages away. I can't even remember myself being that way, and tapping into it is powerful. Okay, time for a quick break. This podcast is free to you because of one of our amazing sponsors, such as Like a Kitten. Guess what, y'all? It's time for spring cleaning, and that includes your sex drawer with those old, crusty lube bottles and toys way past their prime. Why not get a fresh start this spring with a brand new set of sexy essentials from Like a Kitten? Like a Kitten offers subscription gift boxes that have all the ingredients you need to spice up your sex life and think outside the box. Plus, it ships right to your door discreetly, so you don't ever have to step foot inside a sex shop.
Their spring box will tickle all your senses with everything from sex toys to flavored lube to other sensual accessories. I personally love how this season's box also comes with nipple arousal cream and a nipple suction set because they help me rediscover my love for nipple play. Not only do you get all this and more for only $79, which is a steal since the products in this box retail for twice that price, to celebrate spring, Like a Kitten is offering our listeners 15% off and free shipping when you go to likeakitten.com/shameless or enter code shameless at checkout. Just go to likeakitten.com/shameless or use code shameless to get 15% off these incredible boxes. Likeakitten.com/shameless. The link is in the episode's description. All right, back to the show. I have exact memories of like the first time I was finger banged and the first time finger banger is someone who later on in life showed up in the business world, and I won't share deep details about what that means, but
was it consensual?
Yes, but the same thing, like, didn't say anything, didn't feel good. Like first time there's fingers touching your pussy. And as someone who never really explored that with my own fingers internally and have someone's kind of just like jabbing away and like, I had never had sex. It's like everything's kind of like, still new and intact.
And sometimes they'd have longer nails that would hurt.
I don't even know. It was a dark room with you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, but let's do it like they do it. Animals or doggy style or whatever was that song, like you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel.
Oh my god, that wow, I did not like that
so
song.
That's playing in the background,
but I liked your version of the song.
And then someone's finger banging
that was
me.
playing in the back.
Well, I'm getting finger banged and I'm like, this hurts, I don't like this, I don't know what to say. And it's interesting because I grew up with a different upbringing with a little more sex positivity. Sex wasn't a shameful thing. I had more comprehensive sex education, but it didn't include how to have pleasure, how to have orgasms, and still grew up in a culture where somehow it's all kind of the cock or the sexuality based around penis owners is the standard. And I still, even with all my background and a mom who told me before I had sex, you can come to me when you want to when you want to have sex, you can go on birth control. Like I could have, and then the first time you have sex, it can be here in the house. I want you to be safe. Still had that idea, still did the same things, just wasn't people going down on me and got on birth control before having sex and all these other pieces. But
oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. I very rarely I have been very active in my sexual health and wellness in a positive way, in a way that wasn't shameful, because it was offered to me from my mom at a young age, like a year or two before I was sexually active. And when I say that, I mean actually having a penis inside of me, not fingers and things like that. So, and so I guess in my teens, a lot of the sex that I was having was very similar to yours, except
were you having like PIV, like penis and vagina sex?
I think the first time I was maybe 15 or something, and but no orgasms. Had never had an orgasm, not even from masturbation though. And I wasn't a shameful masturbator when I was younger. I just didn't really masturbate.
Were you wondering what orgasm was like? Did you know about orgasm? Or
yeah, I did.
Have questions about it?
Yeah,
and just research it in a bit, but just knew that you weren't having those happen in your body yet? I don't know how much research I did. I was aware of this, that I'm having sex or fingers. No, and also my first 3 sexual partners that I had penetrative sex with did not go down on me. They never offered it, never asked for it, didn't know I could. They never offered it. So oral sex to this day, someone going down on my pussy is still like a tricky thing. Because, did you go down on them?
Oh yeah, I was offering blowjobs all over the place. Just kidding, that's not true. But everyone, we can't give details, but we are writing a book, and there's a lot of more in-depth stuff there that isn't just about our stories, but so I won't go too into this in this regard, because it is in the book, and
both of us have, and we do talk about this, but we both have had some traumatic situations that have happened in our teens.
Yes, and the blowjobs that I was offering all over the place was not like, hey, football team, I'm gonna suck all your dicks. It wasn't like that. It was, okay, here's this guy that's my air quotes again boyfriend, or a guy that I'm 17 and someone I know. We're all friends, part of the same friend group, and we're making out. And now all of a sudden they are saying, I'm going to go hang out with my bros, but if you suck my dick, I'll hang around, shit like that. Where, and sometimes
they said that?
Oh yeah. That's all in the book, Chip. Don't worry. Anyways.
I did have dudes not call me back because I wouldn't suck their cock.
Yeah.
I did, and they would never, they pretended that they wouldn't even know me And
all this is
that's
part of what
devastating
we're
shit.
speaking to, like whether you grew up in Santa Cruz, California, in somewhere that has maybe a little bit more of like a progressive or sex positive culture versus the Midwest where you grew up, we are still kind of doing some of the same things. And as teenagers especially are having some similar experiences. You had probably abstinence only sex education. I have comprehensive. I'm more apt or more open to being on or afraid to have sex and be on birth control, yet we're still having orgasmless, disconnected sex because that's what teenagers do.
There's also the piece, even if, and it probably all is interlaced and woven and in relationship to each other, but even if we had comprehensive sex education, I still feel that there is so much slut shaming that goes on.
Oh, yeah.
And that was something that also, I don't want to be a prude and I don't want to be a slut. That was something that was really difficult to navigate in high school. And I still hear young humans out there where they'll talk shit about, oh, my friend just sleeps with everyone. And I'm like, do they want to? Is it consensual? Are they doing this because they feel like they have to? Or that's the stuff too, that sex education is so important. And maybe it is all related in some way where we can focus not on what will happen, but on our own pleasure, which is something that I believe if we start to put the focus on our own pleasure, no matter what genitals you're rocking and no matter how you identify as a human, what gender you're identifying as, what you were born with. And if that's happening and you feel like, oh, I'm feeling like this person's a slut or this person is a specific way, I feel like that's the shift that needs to happen, and maybe sex education would help with that.
It would be really nice. And that's the shift I feel like happens, not for everyone, but for a lot of folks as they grow older, they get out of this like teenage competitive, but not all of them, because I've met plenty of, 40-year-olds that have some strong judgment around how men and women and humans should just be in regards to sexuality. And is slut shaming a part of that? You and I have a mutual friend who was slut shamed at around 40 by a partner for having so many experiences with past partners having sex, and that still showed up there because of the gender dynamics and all these different pieces. So yeah, but that does shift over time. So let's move to the 20s. All right,
In the 20s.
So now we're in our 20s. Chips, you're 25. Oh, you know me now in 25, right?
25.
Yeah.
Well, I decided to,
We're finally in each other's
when I
lives.
was actually 20, I chose to no longer be with penis owners. I made a conscious decision because I was
Fuck that deal.
fucking mad and my heart had been broken and I thought that all of them were bad, right? I was 20. So I chose, so you were 25. When I was 20, I chose to have a relationship with I did not identify it as being a lesbian. I didn't identify it as anything. I identified it as wanting to feel pleasure and love. And it was closeted and very, very difficult to navigate because her and I were best friends that turned into lovers and in secret.
I realize this sounds confusing because you just said you were 21 and I was 25. And no, I was saying you're 25 and you're just telling your story.
Oh.
Yeah. So no. April's just telling her story. I wasn't a part of this. I'm not the one person who's talking about, and I'm not the 25-year-old just having sex
Got
with.
it. I was like, well, you're 25.
No.
Yes, that would be confusing.
No, and I didn't also at 25 decide that I'm done with men and now a lesbian either. So.
Good point.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
But I like this because I love when people are like, so are you guys together?
Well,
So.
because I didn't want to jump to 25 because this part of my 20s was very shaping of who I am today. And I thought that perhaps I was only meant to be with vulva owners. And now I understand way more about sexuality where I know it doesn't have to be labeled and so specific. But back then I did think it is this way or that way. And there's nothing else in between because I didn't know anything else. Again, the sex education piece. The internet does exist now and there's more resources.
We have Google now.
And back then I was like, I am lesbian. And I never would say that to anyone, but that's what I was telling myself inside. And I never thought anything was wrong with that. And in my experience with this person, it was awesome. And I actually remember being like, wow, maybe a vulva owner knows another vulva owner enough where they can fucking get down and actually do things. And I remember being able to have an orgasm or a few and learning about how to actually please another pussy, which I had never done before. not genital on genital. It had only been dry humping in 4th grade. So totally different. And that was really a turning point for me in my sexuality. And I reached a point where the closeting of the entire situation, and not because there was shame around it, it was because neither of us were willing to open up to our families, and neither of us knew if this is what we wanted to really go forth with and present the world, because we just loved each other so much that we felt like experiencing each other's bodies
20,
was part of it.
Your young 20s
I was
too,
20
in the
and then
Midwest.
21 and then it was for a little while. And then what I do recall, though, there was a point in the relationship where I remember wanting, and I never knew about sex toys. Again, had no idea about strap-ons or other penetrative devices other than what was attached to your body, which fingers and mouths and things. And I remember missing the penis. I remember the moment in
Like penetration.
I remember just missing a cock. Like the soft to hard pieces that were involved in penises, and also the dynamic of like the mystery of what. I'm going to use the terms that I used back then, like the mystery of the boy or the man, right? Of what they were doing, the dudes, and what they were thinking, and sort of the difficulty involved in
You missed the challenge.
Yes, which is kind of my fucked up mind. So that was that, and then I actually ended up dating my best friend, penis owner. After that, after her and I called it quits, I ended up being with one of these dudes that I lived with, and being with one of the dudes I lived with, like 5 dudes, and one of them, they were in a band.
And what was the sex like? You don't have to talk about the relationship. Just let's not talk about relationships. Let's talk about like
right.
So your mid-20s. You talked about that, but like your understanding of what sex is now that you've had the orgasms with this woman, and now you're in this relationship here, and like maybe don't say what the sex was like there, but like what was your idea of sex now at this point? Your understanding.
Well, it was the same fucking process that I had done before, waiting for it to be over, wanting to help him orgasm, not expecting an orgasm to come out of our situations, trying different positions and being more confident in myself. And we were in our 20s drinking a shit ton of alcohol. It was in college. Like, I do think that was a factor in some of the sex that I had with him. And we loved each other, but the sex was never what I know now I'm capable of having. So in a nutshell, that was it. And he was a best friend, and I still love him. He's amazing. So thank you for those good days. We had some good times.
Well, and that's not a blame. It's not like, oh yeah, he was real bad in bed. It was like, this is what we knew, and I continued on. You're saying that it was a continuation of some of the old stuff that it had evolved to. It wasn't the same old stuff, and there was some evolution there and some shifting and changing. And I would say similar experiences on my side too, of a evolving and shifting, and still stuck in a process about the penis owner's sexuality kind of coming first, or the caretaking mentality. Finally had an orgasm from a vibrator, and continued feeling really good about that, having orgasms from vibrators, and actually at the same time decided I would go into this field at 18. So I had that going on too. Like, I was learning about sex positivity, sexuality, and going down this path. But the reason why I did that also was because I didn't understand my body. I could only access orgasm from sex toys.
And you were in a long-term relationship.
My first love was 4 years.
18 years old?
That's when I met you. Well, not 18, but I met you 3 years into it.
Right.
So I think I was about 21 with the fake ID.
And how was the sex in that when you had incorporated vibrators into your relationship?
Yeah. So I would have orgasms just with the vibrator there. And it was very supportive. Like my partner was very supportive of that, of using sex toys. And I don't think my partner ever said like, why does it always have to be the sex toy? There's something wrong with you. I don't remember where the idea came from, but I at some point I think it came from some sort of outside sources where I somehow shamed myself away from that a little bit. Like, there's something wrong with me if this is the only way I can orgasm. Well, the only way then, actually. It wasn't the easiest way. It's just the only way I had ever had an orgasm. In my 20s, I was more empowered, more informed, and was having more connected sexual experiences. And that meant pleasurable. Did I have conformist sex on the occasion? Like you're saying, like waiting for it to get over? Yep, definitely. A lot. And that's not blaming anyone at all. That's like my own programming. The messages or lessons that I wish I had implanted in my teens, if not then, at least in my 20s, was about more understanding of going into my own body and taking the time to really navigate that space and understand that space and separate that from someone else's sexuality, especially a penis owner, so that I could really tap into like this being. But I was a really heady person too. And so there's all these ways. So like to sum it up, in my 20s, I had good sex. I had really loving sex. I didn't have great, loving, deeply connected, deeply orgasmic sex all in one package in my 20s, maybe in my later 20s or early 30s. But I started to like learn about that. So it was a journey. It was like I got little tastes of it, but it was getting better. It wasn't like my teens, but it was definitely getting better.
Okay, time for a quick break. This podcast is free to you because of our amazing sponsors like Uberlube. Uberlube is a luxurious silicone lubricant that can enhance your sex and intimacy. Uberlube's unique formula is velvety, long-lasting, with no flavor or scent, and it feels absolutely incredible on the body. There are thousands of doctors recommending Uberlube to their patients because it's less likely to throw off your pH than most other lubes. So whether you want to make your hot sex even hotter, or you want to prevent dryness, take our advice and check out our favorite go-to, Uberlube.
Uberlube isn't just for sex. I use it for massage, to tame my frizzy hair, to prevent chafing, even for oral sex sessions. I love how it comes in a beautiful bottle with a pump top for easy access, appearing more like a cosmetic product so you can leave it on your nightstand shamelessly. Uberlube is without a doubt my favorite lube, and countless listeners agree, often stating, "We never knew lube could be this good." To learn why we think it's the best lube on the planet, check out uberlube.com and use code shamelesssex for 10% off and free shipping. Again, that's uberlube.com. Use code shamelesssex for 10% off and free shipping. This podcast was also made possible by OMGYes.com. OMGYes combines scientific research of real vulva owners so you can learn shame-free techniques on how to pleasure the pussy. OMGYes studied 20,000 plus people of all ages and turned the research into animated modules, short videos, and beautiful infographics that are tasteful and easy to understand. Whether you want to learn about external pleasure, internal stimulation, or techniques with toys, OMGYes can help you master vulva pleasure. Let me tell you, I've been recommending OMGYes to my clients for years, and it's been changing their lives because knowledge really can activate your pleasure power.
OMGYes is for anyone who cares about vulva pleasure and wants to take it to the next level. OMGYes can help you become a sexual strategist by equipping you with the tools you need to unlock your pleasure potential. Plus, your OMGYes purchase helps fund more pleasure research. OMG, that's great! Only pay once, and these techniques are yours forever. That's right, this is not a subscription service, and you don't need to download a thing. So go to omgs.com/shameless to get 10% off when you purchase any OMGYes season. Again, go to omgs.com/shameless to get 10% off right now. Time to pursue your pleasure. And now, back to the show. Do you think if you could take who you are now and implant what you know now from all of your experiences into that 20-year-old self, that your sex would have been, I don't want to say better, but it would be more opening, and that you could have had more orgasmic experiences and more or connection with the partner that you were having?
Yeah, well, with that, we'll just move into the 30s then, because I'm now 37. And if I were to know the things I know now about sexuality and relationships, communication, empowerment, all the pieces, and if I were to think about taking this and bringing it into those relationships in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have been with those people then. I probably, because then I still didn't really know who I was. I was still learning who I was as a sexual being. And I think this is another part of the piece. A lot of people get in relationships when they're in their early 20s, and they have these long-term relationships, and some of them are beautiful and they grow old together. And a lot of them don't. And divorce is, it's 50-50-ish, right? Like there's a high probability that might happen. And so there's this piece that is grateful that I've taken my time to really learn this, and now I can be in relationships where it's more aligned and fitting to who I am as a sexual being now. And I took all this time and these experiences in dating or being in relationships where I could figure all this out, but I took this very different path than most people. So yeah, that gets a really complicated way of answering that question. And I'm still not perfect, by the way. I'm still learning, but I just feel that the sex that I have now, whether I'm in, we're in a relationship or say I were, single in 5 years, I would be choosing folks and experiences that were really aligned with me, but I had to do a lot to get there. Like everything added up to this.
The reason I asked that question is because the one thing I believe that all of the resources now that are available, not only through podcasting, but there's more books available now, and there's a little bit more normalization about honoring your own pleasure and your own needs. And I believe that folks that were in their 20s and their teens that are having sex now hopefully can access, at least they can have access to the tools that can help them navigate in maybe a different relationship or a different path that will help them have the sex that they desire.
At a younger age than we got to do, you mean?
Right. Or whatever age they're ready. And I think that we do have some listeners that are in their early 20s. We've spoken to them. And I love that
But they also have the porn thing though, which it's not that we couldn't go look up big dick. Yeah.
But on a VHS.
But it was harder to access. Right now everyone's walking around with a phone, and this is the part. I mean, porn still is all about a cock and the cock's pleasure, unless you're looking up some really good high quality queer porn, which is, most folks are not finding or producing. Actually, it is available, it is out there, but it's not what you're going to see on like youporn.com, and most of it is very much geared towards the penis owner's pleasure. And so yes, I hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, they can go Google like, hey, how to have a fantastic orgasm as a penis owner, as a vulva owner, or whatever, and they're gonna see a whole bunch of fucking bullshit pop up that's going to show them this one idea of the way sexuality should be.
I was talking about resources though. There's more workshops or YouTube videos, things that you have to remember what you're watching and the credentials of the folks, and not getting your education from YouPorn. Not at all. That is not going to help you have better sex. I'm just thinking if no matter who the folks out there that I was with previously and I'm still learning every fucking day about my sexuality and who I am. And I never claim to be an expert in any specific, sex toys. I have expertise in that field for sure. I'm just speaking to the resources now, our podcast that brings in all sorts of different ideas from people that know their shit that you can search through. I want to learn about anal, or I want to learn about how to squirt, or I want to learn about how to communicate or unconsciously couple with someone that I still care about. These are the things that I believe would have helped me navigate my relationships better. And I stayed in relationships longer, and I didn't have the sex that I desired in a lot of those relationships because not only I didn't know myself or love myself as much as I do at this point in my life, but also I didn't really realize that those types of available at all other than porn and Kama Sutra books.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that is a blessing that we are in a time where that is available. And you have to be 18 to listen to our podcast. If you're under 18, sorry, we're not talking to you, but that it's kind of available globally. And it's, as far as I know, it's only in English, but something like this is available for anyone to listen to. Whereas when we were in our teens and 20s, there were podcasts, I guess, that's starting in our mid 20s ish. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. But people have to discover it. But yeah, I'm grateful that it is available, and would have been really helpful when I was younger to have that. I mean, I wish I had it when I was 14. I was listening to something, but right before or during the time when I was starting to engage with sex with other humans, that I understood that my sexuality, that my desire, that my pleasure was equally, if not sometimes needing to be more prioritized than the other person that I was playing with based on the emotional connection or what's going on with my body or them or whatever, that we were working together and respecting each other and creating pleasure that was, just not one-sided or super heady or, all of these different things that I felt like I had had a lot of experiences in.
Yeah. I love how much we've evolved over the course of when we first met to now. And the reason that we're recording this podcast right now is also to shout out to all of our listeners out there, no matter what age you are, whether you're in your late teens, over 18, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that we can help speak to you and help you reach the desired outcomes that you're looking for. And it really does start with yourself. And that's something that took me a long time to figure out, and so long that it's almost shameful to admit, because I was in my 30s and I was in my mid 30s. And so that was not that long ago where I realized that I was in charge of my own fucking pleasure. And I'd hear people say that you're in charge of your own happiness, or you are in charge of your own pleasure. And I was like, bullshit. This dude is supposed to make me wet, right? Totally an asshole comment.
I'm not an asshole. No, I didn't think that.
I'm thinking that is an asshole comment
funny.
because now I know that when it comes down to it, granted, there are other elements. There's chemistry, there's techniques, there's all sorts of different energies involved. And we have the informative highway of your phones and laptops available to us at all times that can spike your dopamine and let you come without having any interaction with anyone. Or you have screaming fucking children, or a stressful workday, or a pandemic, or we can go on and on. However, I now still work almost every day on realizing that I'm in charge of my own pleasure, and I can mind fuck myself, or I can
fuck yourself.
Just fuck myself. Yes. And so I'm choosing that. So that's what my 30s was about.
Go for fucking yourself.
And this podcast, we co-host this podcast together. We founded this podcast together. And I will say this podcast has helped not only change my life, because of all of the incredible people that not only listen to us, but the incredible people that have been on the show. And one of the turning points of the podcast, and it was a later episode, but it was episode 95. And I had listened to Emily Nagoski's book before, but it was called Come As You Are Because You Are Normal. And I am such a scientist in my own right, and I love when people bring science and no woo. And she's so fucking smart and genius about how to really navigate the vulva owning body. And I learned about myself though, and what that would look like. And I've listened to that book because I didn't read it. I listened to it. I'm sorry. I'm lazy sometimes.
It's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And yes, I listened to it as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
I read it, but I listened.
It's funny. Whatever. We say read. We know half the time people are like, you listened, didn't you?
But that was a turning point.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm so hard on myself. And okay. And I just wanted to speak to that because my 30s this is when Shameless Sex 5 years ago has come about. And my 30s have really been, for me, revolutionary within my sexuality. And even though I've been a sexual person masturbating at a young age, I never understood the capacity of what was possible within partnership, within different experiences, within myself, until I've been learning with you and with all the folks that we've had on the show. So I just want to speak to that because I think it's important.
Yeah, for me too. That podcast and her book that I read, air quotes again, because I listened to it as well, that really stood out for me and for a lot of folks. If you have not checked out Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, or episode number 95, I highly recommend it.
And sing Nirvana, come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be.
This looks really awesome with the mic in front of you as you're doing that. Oh my gosh.
Do it.
This should be filming.
I just embrace Kurt Cobain. Thank you. Yes. Rest in power, Kurt.
So recommend this for anyone who has a vulva or is an admirer of vulvas. Go check out episode number 95. You were also saying that episode 83 had an impact on your life, which was when that was the first in-person episode with Dr. Allison Ash, right?
I did say that, and I don't want this to be all about me because we haven't talked about you as much in your 30s. I will just touch on the Allison. I keep saying Allison.
Dr. Allison.
Dr. Allison. Allison, when we actually were in person with her in Oakland at the time, and one of a few now in-person episodes, and I had never met her before. You knew her. I didn't go in expecting anything, and the tools that were represented, it was about how to be an intuitive lover.
Like in your body.
Right. Yeah. Which my eye roll was like, oh my God, it's going to be so fucking woo. I'm going to go in. and drink some tea and try to have an orgasm.
No, you added that part to it? No.
I no.
People are like, is that what recording's like? Because it sounds really cool.
It's not. I just get funny when I try to be funny. Well, that episode, because through the years, you know, Amy, I was married and I would talk to you in depthly about how difficult it was to express my sexual desires, and my intimacy was very low level during that period. Even though I was successful in my career, I had all of these things going for me. I was traveled. I could not fucking speak to my husband at the time about what I wanted in the bedroom, and I didn't really know. And she just gave some incredible tools that I've implemented afterward that had nothing to do with actually talking. And sometimes, yes, I love talking, but communicating can be difficult. You can,
especially about like the heart and the things that we could talk about all the hurt that happened in the past. But right now, April, I'm really hurt in this moment with you is a little bit different than like, remember that last time when we were teenagers and you were an asshole? Very different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she talked about these tapping techniques that you can work out before, where you can use if you're in an experience, a sexual experience with a partner and a new partner, existing partner, multiple partners, and you can work that out. And I thought that was so genius, and I wanted to give her a shout out, because when you and I were talking about what shows have what impact, that always comes back to me, because I was such a shitty communicator in the bedroom about what I liked and what I didn't like. And sometimes you don't want to say no. And I'm not saying that. Sometimes I don't want to say no to something when it doesn't feel as good as I want it to, or it doesn't feel quite what I'm into at the time. And I think because I was conditioned to please and be the nice girl all the time, I never learned how to say, that doesn't feel good. I'll be like, oh, it's fine.
Or can we press pause or stop for a moment? Or I'm not getting a yes, but I'm not getting a hard no. Or I am getting a no, but like, let's sit with this, or all those pieces. Yeah.
That's hard. And that's
important. The hardest piece. And yeah, so we're wrapping up this podcast shortly. And so what I want to add to that piece there that you just shared is the therapy and the deep work, because I too have learned a lot through the podcast, but also my own deep work in working on a 5.5-year relationship that was I have not been in for years, and was quite a roller coaster with a lot of really magical things that helped me transform into the human I am today, where I learned a lot of skills, like really powerful, important skills about deep communication of the self and deep inquiry of the self, the good, the bad, the hard, the shiny, the light, the dark, all the things, but had learned it maybe not the most gentlest of ways, and that could be in the book too. So so yeah, that's another thing that happened more so in my early 30s, was that transformation of, wow, I don't know everything. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have this all together. I think that I know what I want or like or how to speak to it. Actually, I actually don't. Or there's other ways to do it that are easier or more gentle or more impactful or more direct or more empowered. And I've spent a lot of time and money and energy learning about these things, and I'm so grateful for them, because they have changed my life. And now I have the ability to speak to these things that, oh my gosh, this compared to when I was, 16 years old, the conversations I'm having about sex right now, to, in the middle of sex, to just like say, like, put your hand on my breast and now pinch my nipple harder and harder. And actually like feel empowered enough when it's not hard enough to move their hand, start pinching my own nipple hard, because that's what I want. Fuck yeah. And also a lot of the other communication skills I learned were outside of sex, are about, what we were talking about earlier, the challenges it's being in relationship. And you and I even practice that together outside of romantic relationships. So yeah. And I just also wanted to comment on Susan Breton, who is a fucking machine.
Fucking boss.
Episode 262, The Art of Penetration, aka fucking. And she talks about all these things that from a very empowered perspective. And I love her. The 8 shallow pumps with 2 deep thrusts. Just go listen to it and you'll know what I'm talking about. And just her the way she owns being a powerful businesswoman who like knows her shit, who knows how to ask for what she wants and like run the bedroom, but also is about like pleasing in a way, but that doesn't lose herself, has been inspirational. And yeah,
she is
just,
every
incredible.
time she is on the show or we've done other projects with her, she continues to inspire me. Mm-hmm. And I am always in love with the information that she provides, and it's in such a way. And it's not only for folks. She speaks to folks that are usually, because she talks about sex after a specific age, when you're getting older and sex changes. And she also, I think, speaks to people that are not considered to be older folks. Like I relate to what she says, and older is subjective.
She speaks to all ages. And that episode in particular, episode 262, also, because a lot of what we're sharing is like for us, but I've talked to penis owners where that was like, wow, I learned some shit from that episode. You know, that was really helpful. And they're like, you know, in their 40s, and it changed their life and their sex scheme. So just there's so much available now. And I think the moral of my story, I'll say, which isn't the moral, it's not the end because it continues on, is that it's going to continue on. And the more experiences I have and the more knowledge I gain from sometimes not always the best experiences, but also from a lot of learning, the more I shift. And that's going to continue on as April enters her 40s.
Well, I want to share a piece because I'm 39, and I want to share the last piece. I've spoken a lot on this show about my journey and my more conservative upbringing, and I have put myself in a box throughout my life because of fear, or because I didn't want to be labeled, or because I thought I was a certain way. And I never came from a judgmental perspective because I'm a very open person and I love people, especially if they're not hurting other people.
That's why I hired you at Peer Pleasure. I was like, you're like, I've never even owned or used a vibrator. It's like, you're a social savant. You work well with people. You're hired. You're like, all right.
I know, she did. And I told her she was bananas.
But it's true, though. This is very true about you.
Amy has believed in me from the beginning, but this isn't about me.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for making it about me. I hate making shit about me.
Oh, but
but thank you, and I love you, and I always call you my
spirit animal.
You're my sexual messiah.
Aww.
In my life. So cute. Bringing it back though, again with shameless sex, I have been able to tap into things, and I'm speaking to anyone out there that perhaps is thinking about their comfort zone and getting a maybe to things that you aren't a hard no to. And for me, when in my 20s, thinking about me, for instance, looking at one of our podcast guests in person that were doing a live demonstration on how to deliver the Erwan and Alicia.
Oh, it was the extended orgasm. Yeah.
Right. But I was a few feet in their bedroom, in their bedroom, and was holding so much space to learn, and also was thinking to myself, my 20-year-old, hey, April, oh my God, what are you doing? Wow, you're looking at a pussy right now and she's having an orgasm. Like in my brain, my Midwest accent came out and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking cool. Like I am evolving, and I'm also opening up to a completely new experience that wasn't having to do with me, but that I learned from, that I enjoyed actually being educated and could take that information to help other folks. And then rewind some to when you and I both separately had sessions with Dolly, and we recorded an episode with her previous to that, I believe.
I think it's called, you have it.
It's called
Awakening the Pussy.
Thank you, because I lost it. And I never thought, she mapped our vulvas for us. And number one, I thought vulva mapping was what the gynos did when they stuck the speculum in you. No, legit. I'm like, that's the only time it's either sex or I'm getting investigated. But that was where my brain went. And so I was highly uncomfortable. And you didn't talk me into it. You said, look.
Of course, I was like, you're going to do this. You're going to like it.
I want some coercion. But I was like, what? Like, I know you might not. You might be a no, but just listen. And I listened, and I met her, and I was safe. And why I'm bringing this up is because I feel compelled to tell everyone out there that I put myself in these boxes, and I never thought I would have anal sex, not because I thought it was wrong, but I thought it wasn't for me because I coerced her as well. Pain. Or I thought it was not for me because I just didn't think it would be, I thought it'd be dirty, might there be poop or something. And now I've had probably some of the most incredible. And I am not saying that to be superlative in a way that other orgasms aren't that great, but I've had fucking amazing orgasms from anal sex or having my anus stimulated while I'm being penetrated vaginally. So all of those things, I just want to invite everyone out there. If you get a maybe to anything, your partner gets a maybe to something, or they ask you something and you're like, I'm not a hard no, I'm a maybe. I say, rip off the Band-Aid and just dip your foot in and see what happens. As long as you feel safe. And that was always a thing for me. I had to feel safe going into all of these things. And that's why I brought Amy to most of them, because I was like, this bitch is going to cut someone if they hurt me.
Yeah. Well, probably not. I'd be like, can we just let's talk about this. Let's all sit down and talk about this. Come on, everyone, if we can, like, get the fuck out right now. And yeah, that's funny that a lot of your experiences there. I've been there. Well, when you were doing the vulva mapping, we were in different sessions, but it was like one after the other. And in that, like, we've been a part of this journey together yet separate, and we're both in the same room. Well, that episode 258 with Erwan and Alicia, and before the episode, that's when you're talking about watching the demo, and you're there like old Midwest voice, and you're like, oh my God, but I'm looking at this pussy being gently stimulated, and this woman's having orgasms in front of me, and this is awesome. And I'm in my head like, wow, this is actually kind of uncomfortable for me, because I've been around so much live sex, which is not uncomfortable for me. I go to sex parties now. I watch so many demos, but I have a thing about the inner. Oh, actually, I want to say the inner labia, actually, not labia majora minora, because a listener actually corrected us on this. So the inner labia, I have some specific sensitivity where it actually kind of like makes my skin crawl to watch the tissue of the inner labia being stimulated. And it
reminds your body of
which I actually recently reached out to Dolly to do a session to try to heal. But I digress. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just so funny that like how the ways that you and I have kind of flipped from when we were younger, and then or been side by side but separate, and the shared experiences that are also very different. And just for listeners out there who you might be 40 and still having a lot of conformance sex. You might be 50, 60. You might be 18 and you're having the most liberated sex. If there's just, it's an endless journey. It's infinite, and we are all so different. And the possibilities, I think, especially if we have access such as this, and and we're not just in survival mode, are endless. Should we choose that? So,
and it is, to be completely clear, it is work to maintain the practices that you want to have in your life. Meaning, if you really want to experience some sort of cervical orgasm, or you want to experience multiple orgasms, we've had how many 280 episodes now?
Well, probably somewhere like 265 or something like that. But the thing is that we have bonus episodes. So yeah, 280 sounds right.
We have a lot of episodes.
Close to 300.
And the thing is, the information is there. You just have to apply it, which is what I have to remind myself of when I fall out of a practice or I forget something. I can refer back to not only the episodes, but also the literature that are made by the folks that have been on the show, or maintaining the practice. And that is something that I have to do every day. Mm-hmm. And if you don't use it, you lose it. Like you said in 40-year-old version. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Except that I don't always use it, but I don't lose it. It just takes a long time to get back. It just sometimes just takes a lot more time and work. I'm like, fuck, if I would have used it more, meaning like self-pleasure to stay connected to my body, now it wouldn't take weeks to get back in. But fuck, okay, I guess I have to do the work. So, and then I want to give one shout out also for folks who are like, you talked about teenagers through almost 40, and what about folks who are over 40? And one episode I really want to highlight is the episode that we did with Joan Price, episode 127, How to Have Hot Sex at Any Age. She specializes in sex 50, 60, 70, 80, and up. And so it's a really wonderful resource, and we're not intending to leave folks out. We're just speaking more to where we've at, what we've learned along the way, where we've maybe slipped up, and well, here's our hopes and dreams and visions.
She also touched on after you lose a long-term partner or a partner,
grieving,
and grieving and sex, mm-hmm. which is a subject that is heavy, and folks out there have experienced this or may in the future. And I was so thankful for her to have shared that information with us because she's incredible. She used to be a teacher, like an English teacher, I believe.
Yeah.
And
I love Joan.
She's great. We've had some incredible guests on this show, and yes, I will be 40 this year, July 16th, 2022. You will see me turning 40.
So when you listen in 5 years, we'll do this again. We'll be like, what did we learn in the last 5 years?
I'm excited about being 40.
I'm excited for you too. I'm excited to be there for your birthday.
Yeah.
We're leaving the country.
I actually like when people they ask me my age. I never do the, how old do you think I am? I'm always like, I'm 40. What about you?
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
never
not
say
even
how old do you
40
think
yet.
I am.
People
either.
do that. I hear them do that all the time. I never do that. And when they do that to me, I typically say a ridiculous number.
Like 99 or something.
75.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if they look 20.
Yeah.
And if they look 20 or they look 99, then I say 14.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it won't go down that rabbit hole. A lot of people have interesting things about age. And I'm excited to celebrate your 40th birthday alongside a whole bunch of other vulva-owning individuals, off in some magical place. And we love penises too, but you're not invited to the birthday. Sorry. But
Not even our dogs.
nope. Sorry.
I know.
No diaka allowed.
Oh, this was so fun. I hope you all enjoyed actually just tuning in with Amy and I because we love you. We actually fully love you. We talk about it all the time. You listening right now, you driving, you vacuuming, you masturbating, you building a fire, you walking in the yard. We love you and you and you and you, no matter where you are, no matter what hemisphere or locale, latitude or longitude you may have. We love you. And if you will, do us a little favor and write us a review in iTunes because as Amy said in the beginning, we actually read every single one. Sometimes she messages me and tells me, Chip, oh my God.
I only
you're gonna
message her
cry."
when you're supposed to read it because of the
Yes. The bad ones. So I do actually, I will cry and I get really upset.
I don't message her those ones.
Even if they're not about me, if they're about something that is not.
And they haven't happened for months.
They haven't.
So that's
so
a good sign.
And not that I consistently need just positive accolades. However, we put ourselves out there and it is to help you. We're not in this for fucking money, bros. We're not in this for anything other than to help change the world and help them have better pleasure within themselves and with each other.
But we'll also make a little money along the way too.
Well, we have to because otherwise we can't.
Otherwise we get
can't
burned
have
out.
Nice, yeah.
We'll be like, I'm
we can't have
out.
nice sound
Yeah.
and a studio. So that's beside the point. But yes, thanks for calling me out on
Yeah,
that.
I know. We have to just say that piece. So it's not where it came from or where like our main intention. It would be if it was just for money, it would be a whole different twist. But yeah, I think that's an important piece. Like it's really is what this does for the world, including ourselves. And we're not like how April said, the messiahs or the saviors and any of that sort. But it feeds our souls, and so we'll do 5-star reviews.
Oh, please, thank you. Okay, y'all, we have to say goodbye to you until we'll see you next Tuesday, right? We'll see you next Tuesday and sometimes on Fridays when we release a bonus episode. But I didn't do that well, so you can call me out, but still give us 5 stars. We'll see you next Tuesday, y'all. Ciao for now.
Want to learn more? Go to shamelesssex.com, and for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code shamelesssex at purepleasureshop.com.